Pokemon TCG Pocket had its biggest ever tournament with nearly 3,000 competitors, all for the prize money of $10,000. We'll get into absolutely everything here. Don't go anywhere. This is absolutely insane. As you can see here, Grails.gg provided the prize money of $10,000 for an Ursa Day tournament. Nearly 3,000 competitors. This is sorted by players. Look how many players they got compared to other grassroots tournaments. No shade to them, but this is unbelievable. And this has to be the biggest surprise of them all. Look at the few Darkrai Giratinas made it into the top, 32, top 64. In fact, in the top 16, we only see 2 of them. We actually can finally say the Darkrai Giratina meta, I actually think, is over. As you can see, Darkrai Giratina is the most popular deck for the tournament, but less than 50% win rate. That's pretty massive, really. Similar decks, Meowscarada Decidueye, which didn't even win, got 54%. And unfortunately, the mascot for this season's deck, Solgaleo EX, someone needs to find a way to work this deck. The 39% with Skarmory is really underperforming. We'll start with the winner of the whole thing. Narumi from France is an Oricorio Magnezone user. Now, we've talked about Oricorio literally since the drop of the set. This card has absolutely run rampant against EX cards, and it's done it again. It's won the biggest ever Pokemon tournament. This little pom-pom bird, this chicken, has actually done enough to win a tournament. It's crazy to think about. And a genetic Apex Magneton always finds its way to stay relevant. If you guys remember, in the first season of this game, this card was often the battery for Raichu and Lieutenant Surge. Now, through Magnezone, we've seen the evolution of this card into so many different decks. Magnezone is incredible. Look what Magneton is able to do. We've all seen this too many times before. Magneton providing the energy for Magnezone. It only needs 1 electric energy to attack. It's a battery for itself. I just don't see a world where this isn't relevant in some way. Someone will ask, well, why did this win? We've seen Magnezone Oricorios not do very well before, and this person only lost 1 game in 17. Now, how is that the case? I'll tell you, it's because of this card. Shaman. Shaman is the difference. Other Oricorio Magnezone decks will only take the necessary attackers, the 2 Oricorios, 2 Magnezones, and that'll be it. But that would lose to Giratina Darkrai because of the chip damage. Shaman's ability, the Fragrant Flower Garden, just completely turns the tie on its head. It means you're taking half the damage every turn, and you can actually swing into Giratina Darkrai while they can only do 10 bits of chip damage every turn. It makes such a huge difference, and that is why you see all these victories against Giratina Darkrai. 4 different Darkrai's were beaten this way. This is the way to play against that deck. Now, if you followed any Ursa Day tournament, you'll see Bixie is a consistent top performer once again, getting to a final. I mean, they're an incredible player. Went on an incredible run with Decidueye and Meowscarada. Now, Meowscarada, since its release, has also run EX cards ragged. We're going to see that as a theme, I think, with the most popular decks. Anything that can threaten the big hitters in the scene, they're going to be useful. Meowscarada, it's 1 point you only take when you knock it out, and Meowscarada absolutely demolishes any EX card. Yes, it will only do 60 damage to something that's not an EX. We'll get into later with the showcase how little damage it can do into something like a Magnezone where it's not an EX card. To me anyway, I think the biggest case for using Meowscarada, it one-shots Darkrai. And Darkrai Giratina, if it still remains popular, I don't think it will anymore, but if it does, Meowscarada is always there to mop up. Notice only 1 copy of Decidueye EX. Now this card, unfortunately, does struggle into Oricorio, but anything that has damage on the bench, you can't hide away. I love cards that can threaten almost anything on the board, and with Decidueye using this form of Rowlet, it does 10 damage to any Pokemon. You can get early chip with Rowlet, rare candy next turn into Decidueye, and do damage to something that doesn't even want to appear for a long time. Something on the bench like a Giratina that's trying to charge up, Decidueye can do 100 damage into straight away. And with that significant damage, it's hard to heal up. But if you take one final look at this table, you'll see in the last 4, 2 Oricorio Magnazones, 2 Meowscarada Decidueye. I think this is what the new face of the meta will be. Unless we see another shift, I don't think it's going to Giratina Darkrai. Maybe we could see something with Incineroar and Charizard, as someone did really well with that. But personally, I think it will be these 2 at the top for a while. Massive shout out once again to Ursaday, the Twitch streamer, YouTuber who has paved the way really for grassroots Pokemon Pocket tournaments. Every single week she provides a major tournament. This one being the biggest thanks to Grails.gg providing such a large sum of money really and getting so many people involved. Once again, shout out to her, and her channels will be in the description. Please go check her out. So we're going into a game with Bixie here against an Oricorio. Now, red cards being used. I'm not the biggest fan of red cards sometimes. I know it's good to shut down decks, but you can often give the cards that your opponent needs. And Oricorio, as you can see here, it barely takes any chip. The 10 damage is so little compared to what it would be without Shaymin. But Oricorio, once again, healing back up to full again. The Rocky Helmet might do some extra chip damage that can help, but Shaymin, I feel, it's just too much of a monster to get through. It's unbelievable how one little ability can make such a difference here. And Darkrai, I mean, once again, it can't swing into it. You have to bellow. We've already seen how quickly Magnezone can get involved. We've seen the pivots of the Oricorios. They spread the damage. If only taking 10 chip damage wasn't hard enough for Darkrai to deal with, they're going to pivot to make it even harder to knock them out. It's unbelievable. And they're just patiently waiting for Magnezone to get involved. Magnezone would do enough damage, obviously, to one-shot. We're going to see Giratina be brought to the front. And we're going to see a Magnezone, aren't we? There it is. Magnezone doing 110. Giratina is knocked out in that shot there. 2 points on the board. I mean, you still have to chew through Magnezone and then go through the Oricorios. It's just, at this point, with no Rocky Helmet in front of this current Darkrai, it's almost impossible to do the significant damage. Darkrai doesn't do enough, really. Only does 80 with an extra 20 can help. Mars is a desperation. To reduce Narumi to 1 card, Mars is used, and then Mars is used straight back again. It's just the delay. This deck with Magnezone, Oricorio, Shaymin, there's just so much sustain. Doesn't need potions, doesn't need Pokemon Center Lady. There's just far too much sustain to work with. And we're going to see here, the back Darkrai do knock out the Magnezone, but with Shaymin, and I keep saying it, with Shaymin, the Oricorio is going to be able to swing. Suddenly Darkrai's down to 20, and with the Rocky Helmet damage, with the chip, it's still not enough. And James Cox, I think, is starting to realize that Darkrai has to pivot out into the Giratina. It's the only hope. Giratina can put on a Rocky Helmet just to dissuade Oricorio from swinging in to the Giratina, but with Shaymin, you might as well pivot and heal. And once again, an Oricorio gets up to 70 once more. James Cox looks at the concede. He knows it's over. Even with Rocky Helmet, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. No matter what, Oricorio will take down any of James Cox's Pokemon next turn. And that is all she wrote. That's how dangerous Shaymin can be. Shaymin is the difference for this deck. And we're going to see... I just think we're going to see a lot more Magnezone Shaymin users. This is the final between Bixie and Narumi, the Meowscarada Decidueye player, against Magnezone. You will see here a Meowscarada that was able to set up instantly an Oricorio on the back foot here. Obviously, Oricorio can only really threaten a Decidueye, but there's no Decidueye out on the field right now. Rowlet on the bench, Florigato evolved. I mean, Bixie's getting everything set up, really. Magneton isn't far, you would imagine, from being online. All it needs is one Magnezone. You're going to see something very clever here, though, from Narumi. I feel like some people might have swung into the Meowscarada there out of desperation, but we're going to see a pivot once again from Oricorio from one into the other, leaving the other Oricorio on 10 HP, giving enough time to get Magnezone. Decidueye will evolve with the rare candy. I mean, Bixie literally has everything right now, and Narumi has almost nothing. A Pokeball comes out, we're going to see another Magnemite and a Professor's, and we finally finally get Magnezone set up. We're going to see another pivot out from the Oricorio. Magnezone can swing for 110, but Meowscarada does have, I believe, Erika's. It has Sustain, it has the Cape, and it doesn't do a great deal into Magnezone. And a lot of thought here. This is on 2x speed, so a lot of thought from Bixie. I think in these games you have to remember there's so much money on the line. It makes sense that they give this much thought. Lily there to provide an extra 60 health. That takes it out of range of Magnezone, as it can only swing for 110. Well, and yeah, 110 damage into Meowscarada. 3 cards left, by the way, in Narumi's deck. Another Pokeball out for Bixie. I mean, Pokeball gets absolutely nothing. Surely we could see a Meowscarada anytime in the back. Bixie's thinking now, do they let Meowscarada go down? There is no EX, remember. So like, this is the most Meowscarada will ever be able to do. And swinging for 60, the idea could be you swing for 60 and then Decidueye, no matter what, would be able to take out Magnezone unless it has the health to survive. Erika comes out, possibly to stop Magnezone from pivoting into an Oricorio to knock it out. So some people might be confused as to why that was played there. Magnezone does take the knockout, and we're going to see Decidueye respond. Some will say that's a waste of an Erika. I think it's a really clever Erika use, because Oricorio with 10 HP, it's on death's doors. It might as well be used as attack bait, really. And there we see the 100 damage into Magnezone. The problem is, I think there's a Magnezone ready to attack, and there it is, literally right on time, right on cue. Magnezone, 110 damage, swinging into Decidueye. And this little non-EX does more damage than the EX. We're going to see a pivot into, I think, the other Meowscarada. A Leaf Cape as well put on Florigato to take it out of range. Still no action. Wow. Very surprising. Still no Meowscarada, and it doesn't matter anyway. Cyrus comes in and finishes the job. That's why you take Cyrus still. Cyrus, I think, will always remain relevant, and it wins the game on the spot. Going into game 2 here, it's Sprigatito against Oricorio with a Shaymin on the bench. We never saw Shaymin at all, actually, for Narumi in the last game. Oh, very fast evolution into Meowscarada. And, I mean, that's insane. To not only get the first energy advantage, but also get a rare candy is very good. Meowscarada can be brutal. And you'll say it's only 60 damage, but you'll run teams over if they're not ready. Zap does 50, but they have Erika, and Erika will just shrug off all the damage, and suddenly Narumi massively on the back foot. There's the Erika. Oricorio is gone, and we see Shaymin Oricorio, no energy. Oricorio needs 2 energy to attack. It would survive the first swing from Meowscarada, but Shaymin's 10 bit of health, it will help against Darkrai that can chip you down. It's not going to do much against a Meowscarada that can swing for 60 each and every turn. And already it looks like it's over. Red card. I'm not the biggest fan of that item, but to take 3 cards away here in this situation, I think is very useful. He still doesn't choose to play it. I think if Narumi doesn't play a card out, you almost have to play a red card just to take them from 7 down to 3. But Oricorio, I mean, you could attach energy here, but what's 50 damage going to do? I mean, he does choose to do it. Guzma takes away the cape. So you are technically swinging for 80, but Meowscarada is just so unbelievably bulky that it doesn't mean anything. There's Oricorio down. It's game over. It's already game over, and we're going to see 1-1 on the scoreboard. Gets another Erika, more sustain. It's like the game. It's basically as if Narumi's cards didn't do any damage into Meowscarada. We finally see Magnemite, but it's just far, far too late. It's already GG. I mean, you can look at the chat below me. The 10 heal. It works against some decks. It doesn't work against this one too well, in my opinion. Narumi did so much better without the Shaymin in the first game. That is 1-1. A horrible brick. It can happen in this game, unfortunately. Finally, the last game of the entire showcase. The last game of the tournament, as it was 1-1. It goes to the final game to win. And we have a Rowlet against an Oricorio. This time the Oricorio is not facing down anything horrendous. We don't see a Sprigatito. I feel like this deck does a lot better when you got Sprigatito out in the front to get things going. And I think now Bixie is taking the decision. Do they pivot into Sprigatito to try and get something else? to try and go through their deck, try and get a Meowscarada or a Decidueye. That is very important. Skill Dive into Magnemite means that later on down the line, Decidueye can snipe that from the bench potentially. Oricorio is completely immune to Decidueye because it doesn't take any damage from EX cards. We see the other Magnemite come out, and Oricorio, if it gets an attach, there it is, it will do 50 into Rowlet. Now Rowlet is in a little bit of trouble. We could see a potential rare candy to try and snipe the Magnemite in the back. Florigato evolves as well, but that needs 2 energy to swing. These are tough decisions to make, and you got to remember there's so much money on the line for these players. We do see the evolution with the rare candy. Remember, it cannot swing into Oricorio. It has to snipe the bench. That is one Magnemite gone, but another Magnemite can easily set up in the back. We also now lose the Rowlet 10 chip damage. There's only one line of Rowlet Decidueye in this deck, so we actually lose the bench damage now. Oricorio having the energy, though, it pressured the situation. Rowlet couldn't exactly stay non-evolved in that situation. We do see the Erica on the Decidueye. An idea could be to pivot into the Sprigatito to cycle through the deck, which is exactly what Bixie's trying to do. To get the Meowscarada, we do see Meowscarada there, so it did work. Obviously, Meowscarada is the only one who can do any damage to this Oricorio. We see the other cheerleader is here to party. Shaymin here to provide sustain. And I think Magnezone here, I think it's looking bleak, in my honest opinion. There's no damage left to that Magnezone. This is how important Shaymin is. This is why the title of this video is why Shaymin won the tournament. Because that 10 bit of healing there means Decidueye can only swing for 80, not 100. And it's these small things that play such a huge part in this kind of game. It, like I said before, it totally flips the matchup on its head against Darkrai Giratina. I feel like in this case as well, it can make a difference. We did see in the previous game with the Brick, obviously having Shaymin out first isn't fantastic, but you're going to get those in Pokemon Pocket. You're going to get some of the best cards in the game. You don't want out first. Like Arceus, I love Arceus, but you never want to see it out first. They are worried about Osiris as they tap on the deck here. There's only 4 cards left. I would imagine they have it. And this is why I don't like red card, by the way. They've just red carded. Who's to say Narumi? Who's to say they could have had it? I mean, I'd rather have an extra tool. I'd rather have something else extra. That's my take. I don't think red card is amazing. There we go. Narumi wins off Osiris. Thank you all so much for watching. Please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Do you see Meowscarada, Decidueye possibly taking over the meta? Do you see Oricorio being such a menace, really, to the EX cards? Will it have such a stranglehold in the future? I think Shaymin might possibly be the key to solve the Darkrai Giratina damage. I can't wait to use this deck myself. Thank you for watching.